Welcome to the Sector Times podcast. My name is Alina.
And my name is Jake. Let's talk about the chaotic Spanish GP. All right, welcome to our first race recap of the 2025 season. This being our first recap of the year and our first podcast that we've done like this, we're going to walk you through the format for our podcast so that you have an idea of what's in store after every race. We're going to be starting it with a 60-second race review. If you've seen the F1 weekend warm-up, this is something they've always done, and we're going to be doing that. We'll rock, paper, scissors each time to see who goes and who has to talk about the race for 60 seconds and hopefully cover everything. Then we'll engage with the fans, hopefully have a community poll element, which we'll put out right after the race. If you want to be featured in our podcast, make sure you check our social media pages. They'll be on the screen here. And we'll have a question or something, and we'll tag you and talk about what you had to say. Following that, we'll have what we're going to call burned in my brain moment. What after this race has burned into your brain, and what are you going to remember the most from this race? This being the Spanish GP, I think we're all going to have very similar burned in the brain moments, but some of the races might be a little bit different. Following that, we're going to go into our podium, and that's not the top three of the race, but who we think kind of driver of the day, but our top three drivers of the day. And following those drivers, we're going to say who punted. This could be a team, the FIA, the TV direction, pit crew. It could be anything. Who punted the race, who was bad, who really messed up. And we'll discuss that, share our viewpoints. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with a championship pulse. And this is just discussing how the championship's looking after this race. What did this race impact in terms of score? Last few years may have been simple. Max is still leading, but this season I think there's going to be a pretty big change race after race for the championship pulse. All right, we're going to kick it off with the 60-second race recap. We're going to do rock, paper, scissors. Best 2 out of 3 or first time?
First time.
All right, first time. Here we go.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
All right, putting her on the spot. First podcast. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so we had Norris, we had Piastri, Norris, and Verstappen starting the race. The start was really good. Piastri retained the lead. We had Verstappen and then Norris. It was a crazy fight in the beginning. Lance wasn't there. He had hurt his hand, so there was only one person from that team that showed up. They didn't have a reserve driver or anything. Antonelli did pretty good until his engine failed, and then he crashed. That caused a yellow flag. We had a lot of issues with not Lance. It was what was his name? Lawson. Lawson was being very aggressive on the track. He had caused Albon to completely lose out on the race, and he ended up having to retire the car. 52 seconds.
No, don't look at the timer. Keep going.
We had a crash or a bump with Leclerc and Verstappen, and then Verstappen had a lot of issues with Russell.
There you go. We'll get into the rest of it. That was pretty good for your first time. It's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
So much pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. Okay. All right. So that goes our 60-second race recap. Let's talk about our burned in the brain moment from the race. Do you want to start with that?
Sure. All right. So the one thing that is burned in my brain from this race, and I'll remember for probably a very long time, is that Verstappen went to pit when the yellow flag hit, and unfortunately his team put him on hard tires, and everyone else was on soft tires, and it was really bad.
That's pretty much, I feel like most viewers probably that is the burn in the brain moment. Mine's going to be Max versus Russell, which what you described is pretty much what started that. I think if he hadn't been on the hards, that would have never happened. But the Max versus Russell, I think we both have seen what Max can do when he's angry, and the way he drove with Russell, in my opinion, and we can talk about this because I think we disagree on it, but the way that he drove with Russell, I don't think was fair. We don't really know what the reason for him bumping into Russell was after he let him through. I personally think that he was upset and driving angrily and just wanted to send a message. But yeah, that's my burn in the brain moment. That whole Max versus Russell, because so it started. You had the massive snap out of the final corner on the safety car restart. Mm-hmm. Leclerc bumped into him on the straight. Then Russell pushed him off. Team told him, give the position back, which I think upset Max even more. And that led to a couple laps. And then eventually Max seemed to let Russell through. And immediately after, rammed into him. And honestly, that's kind of what destroyed Max's race. He ended up getting that 10-second time penalty. So I'm not going to forget that battle. We'll see what they've had their tussles on the road before, but this one definitely probably seemed like the biggest and the most out there incident between the two of them. Let's talk next about our podium. I'll start this one since you did the burn in my brain first. My podium, my third place on the podium for best driver is going to be Alonso. I didn't wear my Alonso hat. I should have. He finally got some points after a very unlucky season so far. He's not the only point scorer for Aston Martin anymore, which is nice. It looked for a while like he was going to get some points, and then he started falling away. And I remember telling you, just more unluck. He had that slight off. I don't remember what lap or what corner it was, but he went off into the gravel, which is not like Alonso. He wasn't fighting anyone. He just went off track. And I didn't think this would be the race, but he finally got some points. I think a P8 or P9 finish for Alonso. So finally scored some points this year. So for that, he's going to be in third place for me.
All right. So my third place is going to go to Hajar. He's doing a really great job. And once again, he is up there in the points. So I wanted to give him my third place for being able to stay up there in the points and doing really well for considering a car that's really not as great as some of the other cars are up there in the points.
I think if Alonso hadn't scored points, Hadjar would have been up there. He's been on it this year. You want to do your second place?
Sure. So my second place is actually going to be Norris, and I'm giving Norris my second place because he, in the very beginning, had to fight Verstappen, and he did a really good job. He managed to keep his tires in good shape, and he was able to overtake Verstappen.
I'm gonna disagree on that one. I don't think Norris. This is a Piastri shirt, not a Norris shirt. I don't think Norris drove the best race there. I know you're more of a Norris fan, but I think it took Norris a long time to get past Max when you had Piastri leading. But it could be a little biased. You'll probably see Leclerc in my podium more than yours.
Fair.
So
that's fair.
That's fair. I'll give my second place to Hülkenberg. Finishing sixth on the road is incredible, and then with that Max penalty, putting Hülkenberg up in fifth, brought him in 10 points, and I think Kick Sauber is now up to, if I'm not mistaken, 19 points, 16 or 19 points this season. So getting those points is pretty big for Sauber, and Hülkenberg did a good job. Bortoleto, if he had been maybe 11th, I would have put him up there, but Hülkenberg scoring some more points. I think it's the first time since Australia. So second place for me is Hülkenberg. You did your second place, right?
Yeah. Norris
Okay.
was my second place.
So we'll go to my first place, which you can tell by the shirt. I'm giving it to Piastri. Incredible race from Piastri again. I think after Australia, when Norris put in that incredible performance, Piastri came in and shut it down and has done really well since. Norris in Monaco did incredible, and it seemed like maybe that was the confidence Norris needed. Piastri once again shut that down. So he's extended his lead. He did a really good job in Spain, and to finish with all the chaos and not have, we didn't really hear from him much. Calm race from Piastri. I think it's hard to not put him in first position for me.
So my first driver for the podium is going to be Leclerc. He had a really good start to the race. He managed to get past Russell in the beginning, and he landed a third place podium spot. So he did a really good job.
Back-to-back podiums for Leclerc.
Great job.
The championship hopes are still there. This is our year. We've got this. So next we're going to go into who punted. So you want to start with that? Or I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer.
I would love to start this.
Go with your who
All right.
punted.
So the team that punted was Red Bull. I think we can all agree that Red Bull punted this race for two reasons. So reason number one, they put Verstappen on hard tires. Everyone else was on soft tires. Why would they put him on hard tires? And even he, after he came out of the pits, on that yellow flag, he immediately was like, "What kind of tires did you guys put me on? What are these?" Like he was really questioning it. Even the hosts that were talking through, they were questioning why they would put like why would Red Bull put hard tires on his car. Um, and I just want to say that I think their reasoning was that they didn't have any other tires. If that was really the reason, they should have just sent him back out on the tires he was on, because he was better off on those tires than the tires they ended up putting him on.
I I think I agree. I think if he had stayed out on the softs, he would have been leading the safety car restart. There was a chance that he maybe could have made it to the end on those softs, but they were pretty worn down. I think worst case scenario, he gets passed by Piastri and then Norris and finishes third. In which case it's a net gain. I mean, he's in third when he pits. I agree with you, but I'm going to say not Red Bull and Max.
I have one more point.
All right, let's get into it.
So the last point I want to make about why the Red Bull team was the worst for this race was the fact that they also told Verstappen to give Russell back a spot for, I guess they thought they had done something wrong and that he might have a penalty, but there was nothing there and there was no reason to tell Verstappen to give up a spot. So they, maybe bad communication, I'm not sure, but they were not on top of the game for this race.
All right, my turn. Here we go. I'm going to say not Red Bull. I think Red Bull did make a strategic error, and I would say they're probably second in terms of who punted the most at this race. But I think Max in the mentality is the who punted in this race. If Max had kept his calm and not driven, I mean, this was a big point swing in the championship, and Max right now is going to have to win this championship based on consistency and being up there. He's not going to be able to, I don't think he's going to be able to get the same amount of points as Piastri or race wins. The technical directive that came out didn't seem to do anything for McLaren. If anything, it made him better. And Max needed that third place finish just to be there in every race, finish third, keep getting on the podium, and hope that the McLarens trip over each other. And so, yes, I agree. The hards were not the move. I'm sure maybe Red Bull has a reason for it. They have a lot more information than we do. But I think most people would have said, don't do the hards. But then Max getting a little pissy about it was maybe not the best, because I think that was really what ruined his race. I think on those hards, worst case, he would have finished fourth. I think Russell would have gotten past him cleanly. But it just, Max was not in the headspace that he needed. I think if he had just kept his calm and not gotten that 10-second penalty, which I think he's lucky for just getting a 10-second penalty, because I think it's pretty clear that it wasn't an accident. I don't think he accidentally hit Russell. Hold on. In the interview after the race, Max had no comment on the situation and quickly tried to change the topic.
Which, if you're a world-known champion and you made a mistake controlling the car, you would not want to comment on that.
But I think you could blame the team. You could say, well, they put me on hards, this and that. I think he let him through, and then after doing that, just in his head, didn't feel like he should have done that, and decided, because you're allowed to give that place back and then immediately overtake at the next corner. So I think maybe he was going to let him through and then just go for a crazy dive bomb. And I think he was just too far back, and I'm sure it was a mistake. I don't think he intentionally maybe tried to run or crash into Russell, but I don't think, there was no lockup, there was no smoke, but it didn't seem like he was really trying to make the corner. He did accelerate. The FIA penalty says that car number 1 accelerated into that corner, and that was the reason he was given the penalty. So I think Max keeping his cool would have saved him. And this kind of leads into the championship pulse, which I guess we can talk about now. Before we talk about Piastri and the championship, let's talk about Max. He's now 49 points behind Piastri in the championship, which there's a lot of races. It's 9 races in. It's not unrecoverable, but it's not the best, especially when he doesn't have the dominant car to fight back. And I mean, Max will take more race wins. The team will be there on some tracks that are smooth. That Red Bull is right there and can run really good. We saw that in Imola. But 49 points behind that was a loss of 14 points just for getting that penalty. And I think Max keeping his cool would have saved him some points there. And with how tight this championship could be at the end of the year, we could look back at these 14 points, and that could be the difference between winning the championship and not. So we'll see how it all plays out, but I think that was a big mistake. In terms of the lead of the championship, Piastri is now 10 points ahead of Norris, cementing his lead again after Monaco, and it's looking good. I think Norris, he's got a 1 week break to recover, and maybe for your sake, he can focus on his mentality and figure out what he's been doing wrong, because Norris is good. I think he's good enough to beat Piastri, but I think there's just small mistakes, and I think maybe he's getting in his head.
I agree. He's definitely probably getting
I
in his
don't know
head.
what it is, but Norris has got to do something if he wants to bring this back in. 10 points is not like a significant gap. Norris can bring this back. He wins a race. Piastri has a DNF somewhere, but Piastri is very calm. He's like
He's
the race,
consistent.
the radi. Yeah, he's there. He's consistent, and yeah, we'll see how it plays out. You got any other comments on the race?
I agree. Piastri is very consistent, and I think Norris definitely has what it takes. He just needs to get out of his head a little bit and focus on the main goal.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens after this race. We'll see you at the next race. Hopefully we get some more fights for the championship. I think for all the fans, it probably wouldn't be the worst thing if Norris comes back, and I think Canada's next race comes back and Norris is on it and wins and closes that gap. I mean, if we get, and that's what Max needs. He needs them to just keep taking points off each other, and then Max is there in third place every time an occasional race wins, and it could be his. You can't ever write Max out. I don't think that car is sometimes second best, third sometimes, fourth sometimes. The Ferrari, as much as I hate to say it, the Ferrari is not there, but we'll see what happens.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a good one. Well, we appreciate everyone watching. If
Thank
you want, we'll put our socials on the page. Give us a like, a follow. Leave any comments if you want to disagree or just share your opinion on the Spanish GP. And we'll see you at the next race.
Have a good time.